Well, thank you for coming to the April Wake Up Newport gathering put on by the Newport Beach Chamber of Commerce. My name is Rush Hill, and I am the chairman of the committee. I'm sure I'll think of it sometime here. But I'm the one that has to get up in the morning before breakfast and have the opportunity to come and introduce our speaker this morning. It is my distinct responsibility, seldom a pleasure, but to call the Newport business mayor up to the dais this morning, Dr. Steve Rosansky. And yeah, he's, I'm doing that instead of a pay raise, so it works, but we're glad to have him here this morning. He's going to introduce some people.
My mom would be very happy to hear that I'm now a doctor as well as a lawyer, both. Good morning and welcome to our April edition of Wake Up Newport. We do this here once a month in the library. And before we get started, there are some people I'd like to introduce in the audience that have joined us this morning. So we have our former mayor and current councilwoman, Diane Dixon, with us this morning. Diane. Another former mayor's with us, Ed Selich. And even though she's going to speak in a minute, I'll introduce another former mayor, Nancy Gardner. Joining us from the city staff, we have Carol Jacobs, our assistant city attorney. City manager, sorry. You can, 2 jobs, we're only going to give you 1 salary. Sorry, Carol. From the Civil Service Board, Robin Grant and Howard Herzog. We got a bunch of good-looking, well-dressed kids or students, young men and women from Harbor High School, DECA Club, and their director, Sheridan Hurst. And from Corona Del Mar High School, the FBLA students, Future Business Leaders of America. Thank you for coming. I'm going to also invite up, I'm sorry? I missed these 2 characters in the front row who will remain nameless. With that being said, I'd like to invite Dee Dee up here. She's works for our sponsor, the Credit Union of Southern California. Is your boss here? Oh, not yet? Okay, well, point him out when he gets here, and we'll maybe shuffle him up here too. But here's Dee Dee. She's going to tell you a little bit about the credit union and what they do.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning. So, Credit Union of Southern California, again, has a branch right upstairs. We're very excited. We're going to be offering a new product for us starting in July, and we hope people will be interested enough to come and join the credit union. It's called our Rewards Checking, and it will come with full security monitoring and all kinds of wonderful features. So that's what you're going to probably be hearing about from me for the next 3 months. Sorry, that's what we've got. We're also doing a new loan promotion, so if anybody's interested in a new or used car loan, please come and see me right upstairs. I'd be happy to talk to you and see what we can do to help you. Thank you.
I'm sure plenty of these students here would like to get a new car. Maybe talk your parents into talking to Dee Dee. They could help you. Also, this morning, if you hadn't gotten to the back table there and had some of the delicious food, you really missed out, and so please help yourself on the way out. But that this morning is hosted by Precise Care, Innovative Regenerative Sports Medicine. And to tell us a little bit about what they do is Judy Lynn. Where's Judy? Oh, there you are, Judy. She's going to come up here and tell you what happens over at Precise Care.
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. My name is Judy Lynn. I'm the marketing director for Dr. Goswami, and it's Precise Care Regenerative Sports Medicine here in Newport Beach, California. And Dr. Goswami is a sports medicine doctor. He's also a stem cell doctor, but we don't use the term stem cell so much because, stem cell is known in the mainstream, but we call it regenerative cell therapy. Dr. Goswami treats sports injuries, joint pain, any problems that you may have with your body, possibly degenerative diseases as well. And a lot of people don't know that surgery is not the only option. So if you had knee replacements or other problems with it, stem cell is another option for you, and it's more natural. We use our own stem cells coming from our own bodies, not from a foreign source. So I don't know how familiar most of you are with stem cells, but there's different types that other clinics use. Sometimes they use amniotic fluids or umbilical cords, but we use what we call MSC cells, and that's like from your own body. You have any questions or any interest? And the website is precisecare.com. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pass around a basket, and if you like to put your business card in it, there's also bracelets that you can take, and you get to win one of these, like a mug with a t-shirt if you like. So I'll pass this around. Thanks so much.
So if you will stay seated, we'll bring our resident daughter, Brush Hill, back up here and to introduce our speaker. Thank you.
I think I need to see that doctor. I've learned my body's like my golf game. I can't get everything working at the same time. So. Well, this morning, I think it's safe to say that Wake Up Newport has gone to the dogs and cats, I guess. We have something this morning that I think is both exciting and non-controversial, something new in the city. And so I'm very pleased to introduce a former colleague of mine, a former mayor, and certainly a jewel of the Corona del Mar crown, and a person that's been an animal lover since day one. And I think she has a very exciting story to tell, and hopefully you'll become enthused and want to become part of the activity. So I give you Mayor Nancy Gardner.
Well, if I'd known I was going to be introduced as a jewel, I might have done a little bit more in terms of my outfit. But I don't know. Every morning, it seems like you wake up, you look at the paper or your particular website you follow, and it's bad news. And it's sort of like starting the day like with a groan. But today is a feel-good story. The Newport Beach Animal Shelter is something that every resident in the city can take pride in. Now, I usually don't have a PowerPoint to work with, so if I screw it up, just be patient. Ah, good. All right. So, we've always had animal control staff, people that picked up the animals. But for years, we didn't control the shelter, so the animals were taken to a shelter that we didn't control. And over the years, that proved somewhat problematic. So in 2015, the council decided to bring it in-house. And we were fortunate enough to find an existing kennel in Santa Ana Heights. Now, if you're not familiar with that area, that's the area right at the top of the upper bay under the flight path. And this is the shelter. I know, aren't they cute? And the shelter is a nice facility, but what makes it a great facility are two things, really. The staff. I've worked with the staff, and it's so much more than a job to them. These are dedicated to the animals in their care. And the other part of it is a team of volunteers. Over 30 people come, and they have a regular schedule. They come and they walk the dogs, they play with the cats. But if they've got an extra half hour or so, they'll drop in and just spend some more time with the animals. So that means that the animals at the shelter, you know, being in a shelter isn't an ideal place for an animal, but these animals get a lot of stimulation. So if you have to be in a shelter, then Newport Beach is the place to be. Now, one of the questions that usually comes up is this a no-kill shelter? And that's really a misnomer. But we can say this is a no time limit shelter. That some shelters, they have an arbitrary time limit, 6 weeks. You're not adopted in 6 weeks, then that's it for you. That's not the case. Our average for a stray, the average time in the shelter is a little over 23 days. But if it's 46 days, that's not a problem. If it extends longer, we wait until that animal gets the family it needs. Now, some figures. you can see that almost, this is as of the end of 17, or January 18, but almost 700 animals picked up, and 19 victims of animal cruelty. These are a special case. And these are the specifics. You can see a lot of them return to owner. The kids left the gate open, and the dog gets out. And if you're a dog owner, you know that your dog will come back, given enough time. But given today's world with the traffic and everything, nobody wants to see a loose dog. So either somebody takes it and calls animal control, or they notify animal control, and that animal's picked up. And those are quick. Usually, the owners are calling, our dog is out, yeah, we've got it, and they come pick it up. The others are adopted. And then you see a few that are euthanized, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So you see 23.7 days. That's really a pretty good record when you think of some of the things that the animals are suffering with when they come. So they aren't necessarily put out for adoption immediately. They may have to have a medical treatment, they may have to be spayed, they may have to be neutered, and that sort of thing. So animals come to the shelter in every kind of condition. You may have a family, they have their pet, they have to relocate, and the new place doesn't allow animals. If you're a Newport Beach resident, you can take your animal to the shelter for adoption for a fee. Now, those animals come, and they're probably in pretty great shape. Shots are probably up to date. They're not having big health issues or anything. But there are a lot of animals that come, unfortunately, from irresponsible owners or abusive owners. Some are just dumped. They have a health issue, and the owner just says, I don't want to deal with this. And they throw that animal out. Well, when those animals come to the shelter, they get the care they need. Their broken limbs, they're set, and they go through their rehab until they're ready. They may need dental care. A lot of dogs in particular will have dental issues. They can have tumors, they can have diabetes. I mean, there are all sorts of things, and we're very fortunate that Shelter has a relationship with Mariners Mile Pet Clinic to do all these things. So the shelter goes that extra step to make sure that each dog or cat has the care it needs to make it most likely to be adopted. The other issue that comes up with animals that come into the clinic is occasionally you get sort of a vicious animal. And even then, the shelter goes that extra step. The shelter works with trainers in the area and take particularly a dog and see, is there an underlying issue? Can we help this dog become socialized? And in many cases, you can. Unfortunately, there are animals that it's just cannot change that behavior. And in those cases, that dog particularly cannot be released to the public. That is one of the few occasions when a dog will be euthanized. And the other is when the particular medical issue is so far down the road that a cure cannot be achieved, and it's just a matter of trying to end the suffering. But that is less than 2% of the animals. But that's why, say no kill, that would suggest that nothing ever happens. It does occasionally. But it is not because of time, and it's not because of space. Those animals can stay as long as they need to find their family. And this is Valerie Schomburg. She is the head of the department. It's run by the Newport Beach Police Department, but they have their special section that deals only with the animals. And that leads us, that's the shelter in a nutshell. And that leads us to the Friends of the Newport Beach Animal Shelter. And we are a fairly new group, less than a year old, and it's in our name. We are friends. We are a support group. We do not get involved in the policy setting. We do not try to facilitate adoptions. We're here to raise funds. Now, why would we need funds? The shelter is funded by the city. And we hope that the city continues to fund it. But like every city department, it has a budget. And how do you do your budget? You look at your last 2 years or something and say, well, these are our expenses, and you plug those numbers in. Well, if you have an animal, I have a dog, and it is surprising how those vet bills can mount up. So if the shelter has some exceptional cases, some exceptional medical bills, they can be looking at, they've spent their budget, and it's not the end of the year. And that is where the Friends come in. We want to have the funding available for them so that no animal ever goes unadopted because there weren't funds for the particular medical care or the training that it needed. And here are some animals. Now these are a Chihuahua mix, and they were born on St. Patrick's Day, so you can imagine what their names will be. And they are going to be available for adoption at the Pet Expo. This is April 27th to April 29th at the Orange County Fairgrounds. The Newport Beach Animal Shelter will have a booth there. These dogs will be there. If you're at all interested, I would suggest you get there early because they're going to go fast. I mean, they are really cute and have a lot of personality. They're not always that easy. So, as I say, our mission to make sure that there are funds to help each animal put its best paw forward. It looks the best it can, it behaves the best it can, so when that family comes in looking for the special pet, they see that one immediately. And here are some stories about the pets. We could have 100 stories, of course, but Maggie, the German Shepherd, you see how she was found? The wonderful owner left her tied to a dumpster. Thank you very much, owner. Well, happy ending. Maggie got adopted by a member of the Newport Beach Police Department who was in the canine unit, so he had obviously a rapport with dogs. And when he retired, they moved to Montana, where she has a huge property to roam on. So she left a very bad owner and got a very good owner. Happy ending. Max was an elderly cat. Now, older cats in particular are hard to place. But this one found someone who was looking, wanted an older animal that was quiet, and so another success story, found a nice, happy home for its last part of its life. Tank is an amazing story. Tank was out on the streets for 6 months. You think, how did the dog avoid getting run over by a car? My dog, I don't know about your dogs, but my dog has no sense of a car. I mean, he'll walk right into it like, oh, it's moved. Didn't get hit by a car, somehow found a way to eat. And yes, I say, it was evading capture. Finally, they were able to get him, bring him to the shelter, and he was really wary of people. And you can understand that after 6 months, and you're dealing with people who some are nice, some are probably not nice, and you're just like, well, the staff worked with him and socialized him, and he was adopted by a vet technician, and she takes him to work every morning, and apparently he has a very calming influence with the other dogs when they come in. So again, another success story. And finally, Betty. This is a case of taking care of your own. Betty's owner was older, and she had no family in the area, and she was a volunteer at the shelter. And her concern was that if something happened to her, would the shelter promise to take care of her dog? And she did pass away, and the shelter did take Betty, and again, found an owner, so Betty had a second happy home. Two good owners. So those are the kinds of stories that I'm sure motivate the volunteers and the staff to do their work, because when you see an animal, particularly an animal coming from a situation like Tank, that ends up in a happy home, that's really tying a bow on a great story. Now, I said that the city found an existing kennel. Unfortunately, we're leasing it. And one of our concerns is the need for a permanent site. You don't want to have to be trying to renegotiate a lease, losing it, having to move animals, having to find a new place. So I'd like to bring up another board member, John Langford, to tell you a little bit about what we're doing in terms of permanent site. John?
Thanks, Nancy. It's so great to have Nancy on our side. She's she's quite great at all this. And just a point of personal privilege, Mrs. Hurst with the Newport Harbor kids, she was my teacher at Newport Harbor many years ago, so pay attention to her. But so I'm on the board and I run the facilities committee, and it's our job to work with people like Tom Fischbacher, Lieutenant Fischbacher, and Valerie, one of the other police department employees, and figure out what the needs of a new facility would look like, and also where it would be. We're leasing, but Newport Beach deserves a permanent home for our pets, and so that any funds that we put into the building are lasting fixtures that we can be the beneficiaries of for a long time. This next slide, this is our beautiful city, and at the top is our current location under the flight path in Santa Ana Heights, as Nancy pointed out. And it's a great spot. It's zoned for having kennels on that street, if you've ever been by. Not only is the animal shelter there, but there are also many private kennels there. You may have even brought your dogs there before going on to trips. And we've been looking very diligently at other options in the city. Although our preference is to stay in our current location and put money into that and thoughts into that, there are other options around the city that we're pursuing as well. And part of our thoughts, we look around the city and we see a place like the Senior Oasis Center, for instance, which could never have been possible without the private partnership that came alongside the city. And those citizens, they had a vision and they wanted something beautiful to reflect the community, and they were willing to work hard to make that happen. And that's kind of what we see with the Newport Beach Animal Shelter, is that we have the necessities covered for the animal shelter, but we want to be even more proud of what it can be. And the animal shelter is a service that we use as a community, and we want it to kind of reflect our interest in it, and to be something beautiful that we can really define and design. So that's a little bit about the facilities itself, and so that a lot of what we're doing on top of raising money for healthcare is for a permanent facility for the future.
Now, you're so much taller than I am. I'd like to introduce a couple of our board members who are here. A founder of the organization and president, Tim Stokes, is up there in his jacket. And Robin Grant. Robin, where are you? Oh, there you are. Okay. Well, a couple of things before I close. As you can see, we've got a lot of heart. We really want to help the animals. We want to help them in terms of getting adopted, and we want to help them in terms of a permanent site. We are doing all sorts of things. We're going out to events to spread the word. We will be on April 29th at about 11:30 in the morning up at Triangle Cinema. There is a program called Guiding Spirit. And this takes the story of potential guide dogs from the time they're born till the time they're selected. And we are sponsoring that for the film festival, so I hope you'll come out if you're interested. We do a lot of things. We want to help the animals, and we would invite any of you that are interested to join us in our efforts, whether you want to volunteer at the kennel, the shelter, that is, you have to be 18, but they're always looking for new volunteers, for us to help us on our events and our fundraising. And if you want more information, you can go to our website, which is fonbas.org, FONBAS.org. And as I say, please join us, please support the animals, please support the shelter. Thank you. So, questions?
Quick question. How many dogs and cats can you house at a time? And is it cheaper to hire your own vet permanently and, have him on the staff?
Okay. Staff member, how many at one time?
Well, this is introduce Jesse.
Okay. This is Jesse Castro.
I'm Jesse. I'm one of the animal control officers.
And this is?
This is Pepe. Pepe's
Okay,
about 4.5, 5 months now. He will be available in about a week and a half. He still has to get neutered, and then from that point on, he'll be available for adoption.
Tell them how you got Pepe.
So Pepe was essentially considered a stray after his owner was arrested. Nobody came to pick Pepe up, so he became the city's property. So now at this point, what we do is we just follow our protocol. We'll get a vet exam, and then we'll get him neutered, and then he'll be available for adoption.
Okay. Oh, and how many animals per time?
Right now, we do share the property with a private rescue home free again, so some of the dogs there belong to them. So I think right now we have about 30, with about 5 of them belonging to the private rescue. So
No, I mean, how many can you?
max, I think we can do about 45. We've never really reached that point. Sometimes a dog will have puppies like you guys saw, little chihuahuas. So those are numbers that we take into consideration as well. But at max, I think we can do about 40, 45.
All right, and then the question, I don't know if it's been analyzed as far as bringing the vet in-house or contracting, but that's something that we could look at.
Right, cheaper.
Yeah.
Have your own vet.
Right, yes.
Nancy, do you qualify the adoptive family, and what is the fee for adoption?
Okay, Jesse?
Can you repeat the question?
Oh, all right, so
If you qualify as
yeah. What sort of background check do you do on a potential owner, and are there fees for the adoption?
So our adoption fee for puppies is $150. If we do have a lot of applicants who are applying, I mean, for the puppies that you saw on the PowerPoint, we're definitely going to do applications for those. So it'd be $150. They include a microchip, spay and neuter certificate, rabies certificate, and that's really it. Our application just asks general questions. It's really for people who are new dog owners. That's kind of what we look for. Those who have the experience are, you tend to be the great people who are adopting dogs, but we really look for the new adoptions just so they know more or less kind of what they're getting themselves into as far as long term.
Yes.
Do you do in-home visits before you adopt them out, or do follow-up visits?
The question was, do you do in-home visits or follow-up visits with adoptive parents?
We do not right now, but it's not to say that we won't in the future. We just never really had to. I know private rescues tend to do that, but again, they're tend to adopt out dogs that may have, behavior issues or other medical conditions that require special needs. From our standpoint, we don't. We haven't yet, at least, but that's not to say that we wouldn't do that in the future if we had to.
And then if it doesn't work out, they can bring them back?
Yes, so she's asking if it doesn't work out, if they're able to bring pets back. Our policy is that within 30 days, you can go ahead and bring the animal back for whatever reasons. If it just doesn't work out because, they hit a hardship or anything else, you can always bring the pet back within 30 days, and we'll be more than happy to take them back. We just don't reimburse any of the adoption fees.
I think it was over there I saw a hand. Yes?
Thank you.
So the new sites that you're looking at, are those all zoned for kennels right now as well, or are those all new areas?
The question is, if we're looking at other sites, are they already zoned for kennels as this current site is?
They aren't, but most of those sites that we have been pinpointed are city property, and so our city council, who has been very generous with their time, has been working with us on figuring out how to zone those things correctly. Our preference, of course, is to stay on this block of kennels. It just kind of makes the most sense as a good fit. But if we were forced to go somewhere else, that's kind of what we're looking at is existing dirt city property that we could build from the ground up, and then we could design how many kennels and runs and everything could be brand new, but it would be much more cost effective to be where we are and kind of retrofit the existing fixtures and facilities. Hopefully that answers your question.
Yes.
So I know some adoption clinics that are doing that for you.
So the question is, do we have any veterinary clinics where if you adopt a pet, you get a sort of a goodie bag, and maybe your first trip to the vet is discounted or free?
So the clinic we contract with is Mariner's Mild Pet Clinic. So we do send a voucher for a free new pet exam. What we do, it's just a form that says free pet exam. You'll go to Mariner's, let them know, hey, I just adopted this dog or cat. or rabbit or guinea pig, from Newport Beach Animal Shelter, and they'll go ahead and they'll go ahead and give you the free pet exam. They can also answer any questions you have in regards to like medical wise, because they do all the spay and neuters for our animals there. We always do send home food, like a little baggie food for the next 2-3 days, just to transition with any type of feeding. With our puppies, recently we've been sending home like little goodie bags, like you mentioned, with toys and stuff like that. So.
Obviously, you take donations for toys and things like that.
Absolutely, all donations welcome. Yes.
In a situation where there might be animals that may be out.
Okay, the question is, if there's a natural disaster, are there plans in place to take care of what could be a lot of animals all of a sudden?
So the last meeting we had, we did discuss that in a situation where that were to happen. I know we have, a few other kennels that are on the block, and we've, possibly going there. As far as horses, we know a few people up in the Santa Ana Heights area would be able to house some of them for us. I know other shelters do that. But again, it's still in the talks right now, but we definitely do have a game plan, as of now, if anything like that were to happen.
And that's a good point. I mean, most of the animals are cats or dogs, but the shelter does accept other animals. I think you've had ducks and rabbits, and if, for example, you find a boa constrictor or an anaconda, you can take it to the shelter, and then they will make sure it gets to the reptile rescue people. So, any other questions? Yes?
Can you tell us a little bit about your needs for volunteers?
Okay, volunteer needs. Maybe we got one right out there.
Sure. So right now we have more dog volunteers than cats. What they do is they'll walk dogs. Some of the dogs will get walked, 2 or 3 times, just depending on how much volunteers we have that day. As far as cats, we do have a lower number of cats. I think it's just a lot of people, tend to have allergies versus cats versus dogs. So we definitely do need more volunteers. With that, you'll go into the shelter, you'll fill out a volunteer application. It consists of a quick background check over at the police department. And from that point on, you'd be in contact with our supervisor, Valerie Schomburg, and then she can go ahead and, more or less give you a schedule of, the days that we'll need you on.
Are there any more questions before we...
One final question?
No, I guess we covered everything. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much. I hope you got a good flavor of something that's actually been a topic in the city for years and years, of making sure that we take care of our pets. Just never were very pleased about farming them out to others, and now we're on the right path, I think. And it would be a great community project to build a oasis center for our dogs and cats. So I think that would be another crown and the jewel of Newport Beach. We have actually finished slightly early, and so I wonder if we could call our former mayor, Diana Dixon, up and maybe give a brief outline of what's going on in the city right at the moment. And
Do I have to be brief?
yeah, I've got the hook.
Okay. Well, good morning all. As Steve mentioned that I may be called up, and I never want to be shy to give an update to all of you on what's going on in our exciting city. I just do want to echo the wonderful efforts and work of FONBUS. I couldn't be more pleased. I've been a dog owner all my life. My husband and I have 2 golden retrievers, and we know that pets are important in our community. And this volunteer effort, let me just mention that, because I am in all other aspects of city improvements, private-public partnerships are really important. It helps allow all of us to have ownership in the wonderful facilities and programs that our community does, whether it's an animal shelter or a junior lifeguard headquarters or the library, which we're sitting in, was built with private donations. This is just a mark of what makes Newport Beach the great city it is. So congratulations to FONBUS, and keep up the great work. I do want to add just one other question. There is a time frame that you're working within, because that lease does terminate in a few years. Carol Jacobs, I see that I know you know the answer. Carol, what is the time limit? 2024. So that is the end game. Either the city or the FONBUS and the city buy that property, or they have to be out somewhere else. So that is going to move fast. All right, a couple of items, current items going on. The council is now beginning to review the budget proposal for the 2018-19 budget. Next Thursday, a week from today, the Finance Committee will be looking at the staff's recommendation for the proposed budget, so now the cycle begins. We've had a study session on the capital improvement program a couple of weeks ago, so a lot of the top line, all of the items for capital improvements are joining the list. We are starting to get pinched a little bit because we do have a big bill to pay every year for the unfunded pensions, but we're still trying to reconcile that. The numbers look good in terms of our revenues, our projected revenues. That we are such a fortunate city because we're conservatively managed on a financial side, on all sides. And so we have a modest surplus that we can, it's like a list of things to do with a little extra money, and so we'll probably pay a little bit more to pensions and some other capital neighborhood improvement projects. So that will be all coming in public meeting in the Finance Committee, and I'd love to see all of you who are interested in the city's finances come in and talk about that. Some of you are following the John Wayne Airport flight path issues. That is a talk about community involvement. It is an amazing grassroots efforts where we have pockets of communities, existing airport affinity groups like Airport Working Group and Airfare that's been around for 25 years or so with the settlement agreement, 30 years. We have a new group that's really residents in East Bluff, very active and are all working together for a common purpose to work with the airlines to reduce the noise that on the takeoff. To take off high and quietly is the goal, and intersecting that with the new flight pass from FAA. So actually we are now stepping up our activity. We have a lobbyist in Washington to work with Congress and the FAA. Jeff Herdman and Dave Kiff and myself and Kevin Muldoon will be going to Washington to meet with our lobbyist and make some visits with the FAA and start letting them know that Newport Beach cares what they do when they fly over our city. What else? Harbor, some of you may be following what's going on in the harbor. Last week we reviewed a proposal for a harbor port master plan, and it seems to have generated some controversy. Right now, I voted for it. I'm supportive, and it really has a time limit as to how far we'll go with this. We don't want to spend a lot of money, but there is a unique opportunity that to have our own port management plan. It doesn't create any new laws. It just creates the existing process that typically goes right up to the Coastal Commission for application review on a development plan. That anything to do in the harbor, it would be done locally, like our land-based local coastal plan. So early days, there is some opportunity because Assemblyman Harper has a bill, one of his assembly bills that is currently in the Senate Natural Resources Committee, and so we're trying to get, this bill has been merged into the Senate bill. So if it could go forward, that's one success path, but also the support of the Coastal Commission is the critical element. We're not going to go after this idea if the Coastal Commission is opposed. It just is a non-starter. So we will know where coastal is in the next 60, 120 days, and so we'll be able to stop it if it's not going to work. But it could be a good idea. There's still a lot of questions out. The next 2 weeks, it's a big time in Newport Beach and specifically on Balboa Peninsula. The Lido House Hotel will be opening. There'll be a series of grand openings. It's just fantastic. Bob Olson, our local resident, Balboa Island resident and developer, who has been quoted extensively in the media with this heartfelt story. He has so many friends in the community, and he wants this done right. Every architectural detail, every service element, every feature is iconic. This is going to be, we'll have to Wake Up Newport at Lido House Hotel, perhaps, maybe. To get over the...
Better have a mixer there.
Yeah, that even better. Yeah, that's right. We need to get more things, more back to West Newport. So anyway, it's just they're taking the construction fences down, the lawn is planted, the lights are on, the sparkly lights are on. It's just, the peninsula is waking up. It is just really, really fantastic. And I want to commend the prior council. You got it done, and our residents signed the lease. Rush Hill signed the lease. And our residents wanted a hotel, not a mixed use, not a multi-use. They wanted a hotel, and they're getting a beautiful, beautiful facility that will be present for many city and private events throughout the years. A little personal plug, Robin's here, so it reminds me, on April 23rd, 5:30 to 7:30 in the community room, we have the 3rd annual Women in Newport Networking Forum, and that has been our effort. Robin and myself and a few other women leaders in the community and city staff have been working to generate interest for men and women to apply for our council-appointed boards and commissions. That's Finance Committee, Parks and Recreation, Arts, PB&R, Library, and there are a few others. And we've created a lot of awareness. When I started this about 3 years ago, I looked at the application pool of those people who have applied, and it was about 20% women and 80% men. So this is not a discrimination issue. This is encouraging everybody, and the rising tide lifts all boats, to apply to become involved in a different aspect of the community and as serving on our council-appointed boards and commissions. So that's April 23rd. On the city website, this is all on the city website, I'm getting squeezed here. It lists about, I think, 12 council-appointed boards and commissions are terming out, and Mary's nodding her head, so it's about 12. June 30th. So this is the application period. When is the deadline, Mary? May 9th? I think it's May 9th. And then that goes through a council review process, and then the appointments turn over June 30th. So please go to the website. Okay, Special Olympics event tonight. It's a big relay rally tonight here at the Civic Center, 5:30, 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. I think, is the public welcome? I think so, yeah. Okay, so I also want to say there's a little bit I couldn't hear during the meeting when John Langford was speaking, because I was absorbed with his little baby boy back there. So what is his name? Zach. Yeah, so that's your son? That's my son. Yeah. How old is he?
He's, almost 5 months? Yeah.
So I'm glad the whole family was here, John. Thank you for all you do. All right, that's it. So have a great day. Thank you.
All right, we're going to, one more important thing, or I lose my job. I have to call back up the big cheese. Mr. Rosansky will conclude us.
Thank you, Rush. And I'll just add my 2 cents worth about the animal shelter. When I was a city councilman, I was a big advocate for the shelter. We filmed about 100 episodes of Pick a Pet there. They do great things, and what Nancy says is true. It's almost a virtual no-kill shelter. They try and find homes for all the animals. The sick ones they make well, and then they adopt them out to good families. So definitely a worthwhile group to support. So I just wanted to quickly let you know some of the things that are coming up, and I got to pull up my calendar here so I get them all. On April 18th, we're going to have our business lunch at Fleming's, Capitol Grill. You can learn how to get the job that you always really wanted, right? We have a speaker that's going to talk about that. Our Government Affairs Committee meeting, which, Rush, are you going to be officiating that, or am I taking over? Yes? I am, okay. So our next Government Affairs Committee meeting, which is only open to chamber members, that's one of the few things that we do that is only open to chamber members. That'll be on April 19th. It's at our offices at 4343 Von Carmen Avenue. It runs from 8 to about 9:15. Our speaker that morning is going to be Deputy Chief Dennis Birch. He's with the Traffic Division here at Newport Beach, so he's going to give us a little update about what's going on in town as far as traffic and other police matters. We have a new member mixer, so if you're a new member that's less than a year or a potential new member that's thinking about joining the chamber, we're going to have a mixer at Fleming's. That one is at Fleming's, right? On April 24th. On April 25th is our Scholarship Awards Dinner. Maybe some of you students out here are going to be recipients that night. We honor the top 35 high school seniors, graduating seniors from Harbor, Corona del Mar, and Sage Hill schools, and that'll be held at the newly rebranded Hyatt Regency John Wayne Airport, Newport Beach. They got a long name, but it's beautiful. We were there for a little opening event they had, and they've totally redone the place, so we're excited about that. The night after that, busy week that week, is our regular mixer. We're going to be at Water Grill in Costa Mesa, and that's a joint mixer with the Costa Mesa Chamber of Commerce and the Santa Ana Chamber of Commerce. So a big group of people. Last time we were there, they had oysters on the half shell and all kinds of great food, and it's totally free. If you're not a member and you want to come, is Jim still here? Jim? See Jim Villers, he can get you on the guest list for that. And I think, well, and our next Wake Up Newport meeting is going to be May 3rd. Unfortunately, I can't tell you who the speaker is, but I guarantee it's going to be a good one. So have a great week, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.